years ago at WCDN, the student-run radio station at the University of Michigan. She was the public affairs director, and I was the chief announcer. If you're wondering what a chief announcer is, it's the guy that they call up in the middle of the night when the next DJ doesn't show up. I feel incredibly lucky to have met Allison for so many reasons, but I especially feel lucky because the radio station was one of the only organizations she ever joined. Allison wasn't a joiner. Allison was a doer. She had projects. She was a maker. She was a builder. When I started thinking about what I wanted this service to be about, I started thinking about all the things that she built and the ways that they were important. And I feel like the most important thing that she built was community. And so I wanted the service to be structured around the different communities that she built. And I certainly don't have all of them represented. I wanted to keep the service kind of short and have more time for the reception afterwards for people to tell stories and to share their individual experiences of Allison. But I'm going to have 3 different groups come up and each talk about the way that Allison built community and nurtured community. I've asked the speakers to come up to the podium in groups today, also to represent that community, and also to have some backup. This is my friend Todd. We've been friends since I was younger than Blue and just a little bit older than Cal, and he was supposed to step in if I couldn't make it through this. So the first group that I want to invite to come up is Allison's second-time moms group.
My name is Pamela Caton, and I would like to introduce Christine Lee, Teresa Chan, and Leah Shikuma. We're all part of Allison's Second Times Mom Group, and back in 2004, that was almost 11 years ago, Allison, Teresa, and I joined the Sherry Reinhardt Group for New Mothers. We shared this amazing and transformative time, meeting every week with our little ones in tow. When we started in on a second round of babies, we quickly appropriated Allison's friends, Leah and Christine, because we knew a great thing when we saw it. And we've been getting together almost every week ever since, and we've been building our families and lives together. Allison understood how to live life well, and I think everyone here can attest to her success in putting that understanding into practice. More than anyone I know, she was thoughtful and deliberate in cultivating happiness and connection for herself and for others. To this end, Allison took regular scheduling to the next level. She set up recurring nightly walks with some of her close friends. I was lucky to have Monday night. She had scheduled lunches with others, play dates and library days for the boys, a weekly shopping and cooking day. There's even time for Dave just to take for himself on the schedule. Let's see, as our group thought about what we wanted to say today, one thing that came up again and again is how much we've learned from Allison. The depth and breadth of her knowledge was remarkable. She knew the Latin names of all the plants in her garden, what needed to be done to get your house ready for an appraisal, which new restaurant we could try, which books each of us would like, how a bra should fit properly, how to grow tomatoes from last year's saved seeds, and so much more. By example, she taught us about friendship and acceptance. And in these last months, she showed us what it is to die with dignity and grace. Let's see. Water break. friendship between Allison and Dave. In spending time with them, you could feel how much respect and love they have for one another. The fundamental understanding of a good marriage and a strong family is a gift for Blue and Cal that they will have for the rest of their lives. While their time with their boys was not at all long enough, the quality of that time was remarkable. Allison truly excelled at being a mother and creating a space in which her children could thrive and grow. One more sip of water. In a recent blog post, Dave wrote that for Allison, the grass was never greener on the other side. The question for her was always how to grow her own greener grass. This describes Allison to a T, literally, as she was an accomplished gardener, but also metaphorically. What we'd like to add to this is that the greener grass didn't stop at her property line. Allison spread that greener grass right along with all the tomato seedlings, all over Albany and Berkeley and quite a bit beyond. Thank you.
We are representing the large group of friends Al had at Marin School. This is Kat Bliss, Janet Yokoyama, and Laura Turbo. I'm Kim Trutain. I met Al on the Marin schoolyard. Her friendliness made getting acquainted easy. Allison was sincerely interested in others, including the rather banal day-to-day practicalities of our lives. This made her a charming conversationalist. She was really a great listener and would check back on little things I'd mentioned.
Kids lining up for school is a chance for parents to connect and make plans. But for me, it was a time to see what my friend Allison would be wearing. She wasn't always like this, but in the last 10 years, she'd be wearing A-line skirts, floral patterns, cute lady shoes, and necklaces that could carry on a conversation on their own. And I really loved to see my friend dressed up first thing in the morning. What people wear is not important to me, but what Allison wore every day, it was important to me. She wore her clothes with self-respect and pride, and she was so happy being there at school with her boys. And I wish I could share the mental photo that I have of her. She's just a perfectly tied up bunch of flowers standing out from the blacktop.
Blue and my boy Charlie headed off in kindergarten, and we regularly walked to school together with our neighborhood school bus ever since. Allison mentioned early on to me that she hoped for lifelong friendships for her boys, and she hosted many play dates to grow those close bonds. Allison made sure her house was continuously fun, from putting a tire swing in many years ago to most recently the ping pong pavilion. She kept her home entertaining for Blue and Cal and their friends. Allison knew how to make me feel welcomed as well. She always invited me into her home and offered me something to drink when I was over to drop off or pick up the boys. It turned into time for us to catch up with each other. Along with lovely tea and conversations, I would often get invited to take a peek at one of her projects.
Allison was truly special. She had this way of drawing you into her world and taking you along for the ride. Every time we got together, she'd either tell me about a project that she had just finished or plans about a new project that she had. Her finished projects were always fabulous and inspiring. We spent countless hours discussing her home projects.
We started with paint colors for her front room, and you had to remember that it was really important with Allison that we had to look at it in the morning and in the evening because it's totally different. And then there were the fabric swatches. We went through tons and tons of fabric swatches. They were all in the blue family, of course, but there were tons of swatches. And we had to find the perfect pattern to reupholster her dining room chairs. She also had a project to repaint and rehab a dresser for the entryway, which is beautiful, by the way. And in typical Allison fashion, she even went to Paper Source, the high-end paper store, to line the drawers of that project. And don't let me get started about the kitchen faucet. She redid her kitchen. We talked about everything else, but that kitchen faucet, I tell you, was definitely a multi-play date discussion. The question was, and you all should know this, was do you buy a faucet with a sprayer built into the faucet or a sprayer on the side of the faucet? And I can tell you that the sprayer to the side of the faucet is Allison approved. So if any of you are doing home renovation projects, please make sure you remember that. Allison was just as interested in my home projects as her own. She'd ask me for pictures. She wanted to review the design plans, the planting plans. That woman loved a good home project. She also had an amazing green thumb. She could really grow anything. And surely everyone here has had a tomato from one of her many, many, many plants that we all keep talking about. And I know my kids enjoy picking tomatoes, pulling carrots from the garden, picking and eating blueberries and strawberries, eating the beans straight from the vines. Allison's enthusiasm, her knowledge, her energy, and her passion for a good home project is one of the many things that I will remember about my dear friend.
Allison was excellent at enjoying life. She excelled at making her home beautiful and functional. She nurtured her friendships. She loved good food and humor. As recently as last week, I arranged to make a treat for Al and her family, some brownies. When I texted her to ask whether 6:15 would be a good time to deliver them, I was expecting yes or no back. She wrote, "After exhaustive experimentation, it has been determined by all major scientific institutes that brownie delivery is never bad." I was awed at her apparent ease at holding on to her joie de vivre all the way through even the toughest of times.
Around May, when Al had gotten sicker, she requested that friends come over each day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, to help out a bit, but mostly just to be with her. We comprised old friends, Marin friends, her dear Momscript friends. One of us coined the term lady sitters, which Al loved. I looked forward to my shifts. I didn't know what we would talk about or do, but it was always pleasant, which is amazing given the very difficult circumstances she was in and the physical decline she was experiencing. I think that shows how skilled Al was at finding the good and the possible in every day. One day in August, I dropped by, and she and her lady sitter were making pickles.
Allison didn't waste effort on things that didn't matter to her. She poured energy into what did matter: her family, her faucet, her home, and her friends. I have to just mention a birthday party that she had about 10 years ago. Even though it wasn't her birthday, the party was a gift that she gave to everybody else. It was her birthday, and the party was like she was giving it to everybody. It seemed like there was chocolate everywhere. She had hired a masseuse to give everybody there massages. Everybody walked out with a new pair of clothes because Allison had arranged a swap. Who does that? And that was Allison. She was generous, and she was thoughtful, and she was playful. And who else goes through treatment for cancer with her unique approach? She would tell me about this new drug she was going to try and that diet that she was on to control the cancer and this doctor that she was going to meet. And in front of me, she wasn't scared and she didn't seem nervous. These were just things on her to-do list, things she had to do, which is ultimately the most powerful thing that I'm taking of her. In the face of the worst possible circumstances, her optimism never wavered. Even once her hopes for treatment were gone, she never stopped spending far more time examining the good in her life than the bad. At a time when it would have been understandable for negativity to consume her, she instead chose to remain upbeat, and it wasn't an act. I don't think it was an act. It's because this is who she was. I never experienced a moment with Allison where she was angry or had self-pity. Instead, she focused what little energy she had on the things that mattered. And watching her in action helped me become more aware of how I handle the less important ordeals in my own life. And I think how much better everything would be to have that simple shift in attitude. And above everything else, this is another gift from Allison, a gift to cherish. Simply, there is nobody else like Allison.
My name's Elisa Salison, and this is Jody Isaacs and Chris Nuja and Manisha Hariani, and we are collectively known as Dave's friends who became Allison's friends. Nothing but good things. That is the name of the long-running series of music compilations that Dave makes and distributes to his friends. Many of you might not have known Dave before Allison, but we all did, having met him either in college or soon thereafter. When we each reviewed our particular history as Dave's friends who became Allison's friends, the list of positives was huge, staggering. Allison was the unexpected gift of our friendship with Dave, and she too brought us nothing but good things. Manisha and I both met Allison probably not long after Dave and Allison moved in together in Cleveland. And although our visits to Cleveland were independent of each other, we didn't know each other back then, our memories are strikingly similar. We remember a bright, sun-filled apartment that may have been made so by natural light, but more than likely it was further illuminated by Allison's incredible warmth, humor, and generosity. I'll never forget that within minutes of meeting her, Allison launched into a detailed description of certain distinctive differences between men and women, ones that I can't actually share here, G-rated service. And I knew immediately that I loved her and that Dave had found an excellent match. Happily, Dave and Allison later moved to the Bay Area, happily for all of us here, which provided a chance for Jody and Chris and the other Carnegie Mellon transplants to get to know her. And as was typical, Allison swooped us all up and made us part of her world. Just like the nest she wanted her home to be, she surrounded herself with good people and gave generously to that community of friends, whether through advice, clothes, or homegrown tomatoes. Allison created family with everyone. Our interconnections deepened with and through our children. In order of birth, there are a lot of them: Rosie, Isaac, Blue, Clara, Sayana, Lucy, Cal, and Dashi. These moments put together represent a universe of Thanksgiving dinners, backyard parties, the passing back and forth of co-sleepers for infants, shared child care and long conversations at Linda Navidad Franco's home, endless walks in the hills, play dates all over the Bay Area. We have experienced parenting triumphs with Allison, and she has also rescued us all many a time when we've needed it. I know that we each would not be the mothers or fathers that we are had we not been part of Allison's broadly defined family. Beyond children, though, Allison's steadfast presence and non-judgmental ear have played a key role in supporting all of us through the inevitable growing pains of adulthood. She patiently listened to us in hard times, laughed with us at the absurdities of life, and gave space for us to cry when we needed to do so. We could tell Allison anything. Her example of open-hearted presence and love will continue to reverberate through our families, our friendships, and our actions in the world. We want to end today by saying thank you to Dave. None of us are who we are in a vacuum, and we know that Allison thrived in the life that the two of you created together. Her gifts to us were all the more possible not just because of who she was independently, but also the solid foundation that you two shared. Thank you, Dave, for 20 plus years of history, of carefully curated eclectic music. Thank you for your dry wit and your always expert analysis of baseball and political statistics. For your own commitment to maintaining friendships over the long haul. And yes, thank you so much for bringing Allison to us. Nothing but good things. We hope to honor you both by continuing forward with the positive spirit and exuberance for life that is Allison's gift and legacy.
Around the time that Allison went on hospice, we started talking a little bit about today. We didn't talk a lot about today, but sometimes when we had a moment.
I love it.
Not quite that moment. Actually, sort of ironic. It was hard to find moments in the last month. But she thought that given my love of music, that I would have thought about the music and had some things in mind. But the thing is that most of the music that Allison and I both liked was sort of snarky and ridiculous and completely inappropriate for today. But she rescued me. She'd been thinking about it, and she had a song. And she picked this song and wanted it to be played, and she was worried that people wouldn't understand the lyrics. So she asked that the lyrics be printed in the program itself. So maybe you can read the lyrics as the song plays and know that this is a message from Allison.
I love it. If the stars dry up, got me. I have soft play to knit my bones dry. What a miracle
not part of any big group community. I'm the pickle lady sitter. I am the wearer of Allison Blue. I am the recipient and receiver of this beautiful necklace that maybe can tell its own story from our dear Allison. The song we just heard, called I Miss the Point, I think of all the people I've ever met, Allison really did get the point. Be yourself, love your family, live in the here and now. Dave asked me to do a very short reading and provide some introductory remarks that he wrote yesterday. Allison was a voracious reader and a true lover of books. She not only read books, she reread them, sometimes over and over. In her last couple of months, there were several books that she kept with her and read. I have two of them here. This one is called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. This is the Japanese art of decluttering and organizing. Some of you may have condoed your closets with her. And I had the good fortune of experiencing Allison's magic up close and personal 17 years ago as her first organizing client. So that's that one. This other one is called Help, Thanks, Wow. The Three Essential Prayers by Anne Lamott. I'm going to read a very short passage, not from the book, from my typing, because my eyes are old and I cannot read that small print. I do not know much about God and prayer, but I've come to believe over the past 25 years that there's something to be said about keeping prayer simple. Help. Thanks. Wow. You may in fact be wondering what I even mean when I use the word prayer. It's certainly not what TV Christians mean. It's not for display purposes like plastic sushi or neon. Prayer is private, even when we pray with others. It is communication from one's heart to God. End quote. Allison was not a joiner, as Dave mentioned, of organized religion as well, but she was a connector of people. She, as others have stated, dedicated a lot of time and energy maintaining those relationships. As we can see when we look around the people in this room who've all come together to honor Allison's life, and from all the testimonies we've already heard, one of Allison's last projects was a beautiful quilt that she made for her children, Blue and Cal. And for some lady sitters, we got the honor of picking a square that she was going to knit together. And I had the honor of picking one of those squares, and I'm sure some of you also. And I think that Allison really doesn't have her last project finished. Her last project is right here in this room. She built this community, and this community lives on. And we will be here to continue that quilt of connection with Dave and his children. Please join me in a minute of silence as we each reflect on our own and in our own way, and then join us in leaving the chapel for the reception when the music starts.
Train to Scabble.